Welcome to the Oracolesse Sanctum.
Today, we are stepping into the timeless wisdom of Lao Tzu, the ancient sage whose words continue to illuminate the path of peace and clarity even thousands of years later. Lao Tzu, often regarded as the founder of Taoism, wrote a small yet powerful book known as the Tao Te Ching. On the surface, it is only a collection of short verses. But when you pause and read deeply, you realize that every line contains an entire world of meaning. It is not just philosophy. It is a map for living a life that feels real, peaceful, and free. The central idea of Taoism is the Tao, which simply means the way. But unlike the rigid rules we often follow in modern life, the Tao isn't about control or force. It's about alignment.
It's the natural rhythm of the universe. The way water flows downhill without resistance.
The way trees grow without effort. The way the seasons shift without anyone commanding them to. Lao Tzu invites us to live in harmony with that flow, to trust that life, when we stop forcing, begins to guide us exactly where we need to be. But here's the problem. Most of us don't live in that flow anymore.
We live in what we call the rat race.
Think about it. At some point in your life, maybe without even realizing it, you were pulled into a competition you never really chose. School, grades, college, jobs, promotions, titles, salaries, houses, cars, the endless climb. On the surface, it looks like progress. But underneath, it feels like running on a treadmill that never stops. No matter how fast you go, you're still in the same place, exhausted, unfulfilled, and secretly wondering, is this it? The rat race convinces us that if we just push harder, earn more, and stay ahead of others, one day we will finally arrive at peace. But Lao Tzu reminds us, this is an illusion. He once wrote, "Chase after money and security, and your heart will never unclench."
Think about your own life.
Maybe you worked incredibly hard for your first job, your first promotion, or your first big raise. For a moment, it felt like success. Like you had finally made it. But then what happened? You adjusted. Your lifestyle grew. The goalposts moved. Suddenly, what once felt like enough no longer feels sufficient. And so the chase continues. The irony is that instead of giving us peace, these milestones often bring more stress. Higher salaries bring bigger responsibilities. A larger house brings more upkeep. Recognition at work often comes with higher expectations. Instead of resting, we keep striving, always tense, always asking, what's next? This is the cycle Lao Tzu warned us about. It's not that money, jobs, or ambition are bad in themselves. It's that when we tie our sense of peace to them, we are trapped. Because there will always be more to chase. So how do we step out of this endless loop? The first step is perspective. Instead of asking, what's my dream job? Ask, what does my ideal day look like?
Not a dream vacation. Not a fantasy life.
Just one ordinary day that you would love to live again and again. What time would you wake up if money weren't the motivator? Would you rise slowly, maybe step outside and feel the morning air, without rushing to check emails? Would you prepare tea or coffee in silence, stretch, breathe, not because you have to, but because you want to? What kind of energy would you carry through your morning? Calm, focused, unhurried? Or hurried, restless, always watching the clock? Who would you spend time with if status and networking didn't matter? What kind of work would feel meaningful, even if no one applauded you for it? When you sit down and answer these questions honestly, something powerful happens. You begin to realize that the life you truly want may not be as expensive, complicated, or distant as you once thought. Many of the things we value most, time, freedom, health, presence, connection, don't cost nearly as much as the lifestyle we maintain just to keep up appearances. But here's the trap. The rat race convinces us that peace lives in the future. Taoism reminds us that peace begins now. Not after the next raise. Not after the next purchase. Not after the next milestone. Right now. If you wake up and decide to slow down, to breathe, to simplify, to notice the flow of life around you, you are already stepping off the treadmill. You are already escaping the race. Lao Tzu's wisdom is not about abandoning life or responsibilities. It's about doing less with more clarity. It's about letting go of what weighs us down, so we can finally arrive not just somewhere, but arrive as ourselves. And this is where our journey begins. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into Taoism's concept of Wu Wei, effortless action, and discover how learning to flow instead of forcing can completely transform the way we move through the world. Lao Tzu once said, "Practice not doing, and everything will fall into place." At first, this sounds strange. How can not doing possibly help us survive in a world that seems to demand constant effort? But when we look closer, we realize Lao Tzu wasn't telling us to do nothing. He was pointing toward something deeper, the Taoist principle of Wu Wei. Wu Wei doesn't mean laziness. It means alignment. It means moving with life, instead of forcing against it. Think of water. It doesn't fight to move around rocks, yet it still finds its way forward. It doesn't rush, but it always arrives. This is the wisdom of Wu Wei, progress without strain, action without struggle. Most of us, however, live the exact opposite way. From the moment we wake up, our minds are already running. Emails, deadlines, bills, notifications, a flood of demands. Even rest starts to feel like work. "I need to relax" becomes another item on the to-do list.
And under it all, there is the subtle fear: if we stop pushing, he'll fall behind. This is the heartbeat of the rat race. Constant pressure.
Constant comparison. A life where stillness feels dangerous and slowing down feels irresponsible. But here's the irony. All this force doesn't bring us peace. It drains us. The more we fight, the more exhausted we feel. And when we're exhausted, we don't perform better, we perform worse. We become reactive, irritable, and disconnected from ourselves. Wu Wei offers another way. It invites us to trust the natural rhythm of life. To do what is necessary, but without obsession. To act when the moment calls for it, and to rest when the moment allows. Imagine this. You have a project due at work. Instead of panicking, obsessing, and pushing yourself into anxiety, you approach it with steady presence. You focus on the task, but you don't chase perfection. You work attentively, but without the desperate need for recognition. You give it your best, then you let it go. Surprisingly, most things still get done, often more smoothly. Because you're not tangled up in stress, your mind is clearer. Because you're not forcing, your creativity flows. You're working with yourself instead of against yourself. That's the secret of Wu Wei. When you stop forcing, you often discover that life is already moving you where you need to be. Now, let's talk about outcomes. In the rat race, everything becomes about results.
The promotion. The applause. The recognition.
But Lao Tzu warns us about this too. He wrote, "Care about people's approval and you will be their prisoner." Think about how often we measure our efforts not by their meaning, but by how others respond. You post something online, and suddenly its value is tied to likes and comments. You finish a project, and its worth depends on whether your boss praises it. You achieve a goal, but the satisfaction lasts only until you see someone else doing more. This obsession with outcomes robs us of peace. Because no matter what we achieve, it's never enough. There's always another milestone, another comparison, another approval to chase. Taoism offers freedom from this trap. It teaches us to detach from the finish line. Not because outcomes don't matter, but because clinging to them makes us slaves to them. Imagine creating something, a painting, a report, a conversation, simply because the act itself feels meaningful. You're present, focused, engaged. You care about what you're doing, but you don't tie your identity to how it's received. Whether it gets applause or not, you still know the effort itself was worthwhile. This is detachment.
This is Wu Wei in practice.
And the beauty is that when you release your grip on results, you actually enjoy the process more. You rediscover the joy of creating, of working, of living, not for recognition, but for presence. Now let's explore another subtle trap of the rat race: comparison. We scroll through our phones and see endless images of people doing more, earning more, traveling more, achieving more. And quietly, we tell ourselves, "I'm behind." But behind what? Behind who? Most of us didn't even choose this race consciously. We were swept into it. School, job, marriage, house, children, one step leading to another, not always because we wanted it, but because it was expected. And somewhere along the way, we stopped asking, "Does this actually feel right for me?" Instead, We started measuring our worth by how well we're keeping up with others. Life became performance. Lao Tzu's wisdom interrupts this pattern. Taoism whispers, "Your path is your path.
Your speed is your speed.
You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be." One simple practice can shift this. Pay attention to what you feed your mind. Who are you following?
What are you consuming?
Does it leave you feeling inspired, or does it make you feel inadequate? If it consistently triggers comparison, mute it.
Unfollow the noise.
Create space for influences that remind you of your enoughness. Because here's the truth, the rat race thrives on comparison. It convinces us that someone else is always ahead. But the moment you stop playing that game, you're free. And that freedom isn't just mental, it changes your entire way of living. You start to notice what actually brings you peace. You realize you don't have to chase every upgrade, every validation, every next step. You can slow down. You can breathe. You can live in rhythm with yourself, not in competition with the world. Wu Wei, detachment, contentment, these aren't abstract ideas. They are practical tools. They help us move through the world without burning out. They remind us that life isn't about constant striving, but about flowing. And once you start to experience even small moments of this flow, you'll see, it feels like coming home to yourself. In our final part, we'll go even deeper. We'll explore how Lao Tzu's teachings guide us toward simplicity, contentment, and a life lived closer to nature, and why letting go of noise and urgency may be the most powerful step you can take toward freedom. Lao Tzu once wrote, "Manifest plainness, embrace simplicity, reduce selfishness, have few desires." It's a short sentence, yet it carries a truth most of us spend our whole lives avoiding. Simplicity is power.
We live in an age of noise.
Everywhere we look, someone is telling us what we need. More money, more status, more possessions, more experiences. Advertisements don't just sell products, they sell the idea that without them, we are incomplete. And so we collect clothes, gadgets, cars, titles, even relationships. All in the hope that one more thing will finally bring peace. But does it? Or does each new possession come with new worries? A bigger house requires more maintenance. A higher salary often demands longer hours. More stuff means more clutter, more responsibility, more fear of losing it. This is what Lao Tzu warned against. He wasn't against abundance, he was against attachment. He understood that the more we cling, the less free we are. True wealth, he suggested, isn't found in what we add, but in what we can release. Think of the last time you cleaned out a drawer or a closet. Remember that feeling of lightness? As if the space around you suddenly had room to breathe? Taoism invites us to do the same with our inner world. To declutter our minds, our schedules, our lives. To ask, what really matters? When we peel away the layers of distraction, we often discover that what we truly need is far less than what we imagined. A few deep connections. Work that feels meaningful. Quiet moments of presence.
The simple rhythm of being alive.
This is not about rejecting modern life. It's about living with intention. Choosing consciously, rather than being pulled endlessly by desire. Lao Tzu also reminds us of something we often forget. Nature itself is the greatest teacher of simplicity. Watch a tree. It doesn't try to be anything other than itself. It grows at its own pace. It sheds leaves when it needs to, and it blossoms when the season is right. There is no rush, no striving, no need to prove. It simply is. And yet, in its being, it provides shade, fruit, and life to countless others. Its value comes not from trying harder, but from existing in harmony with the Tao. What would happen if we lived more like that? If we trusted our own seasons? If we allowed ourselves to slow down in winter, to bloom in spring, to rest when tired, and to create when inspired? This is what it means to live in alignment with the Tao. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about letting go of the race long enough to realize that life is not something to win, but something to experience. Another core Taoist habit Lao Tzu shared was humility. He wrote, "All streams flow to the sea because it is lower than they are." Humility gives it its power. In the rat race, humility is almost seen as weakness. We're told to stand out, to prove ourselves, to climb higher and higher. But the Taoist way suggests something different. Real strength comes from being grounded, from being open, from being willing to serve rather than dominate. Think of the most peaceful people you've ever met. Were they loud? Were they constantly trying to prove their worth? Or did they carry a quiet confidence, a gentleness that made you feel safe around them? That's the power of humility. It doesn't shout, but it transforms. When we live with humility, we stop competing to be the best and start focusing on being authentic. We no longer measure ourselves against others, but against our own integrity. And in doing so, we often discover a deeper kind of respect, one that can't be earned through status, only through presence. Now, let's bring all of this together. Lao Tzu's wisdom isn't just philosophy. It's medicine for a tired soul. It calls us back to simplicity when the world pushes us toward excess. It reminds us of humility when ego pulls us into competition. It guides us toward wu-wei, effortless alignment, when we feel trapped in endless striving. The rat race will always exist. There will always be someone running faster, achieving more, posting louder. But Taoism whispers a radical truth. You don't have to run. You can step aside. You can walk your own path, at your own pace, in your own way. And in doing so, you may discover that the freedom you were chasing has been within you all along.
Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly.
Feel the weight you've been carrying. And imagine, just for a moment, what it would feel like to set it down. To not push. To not force. To simply flow, like water finding its way. That is the essence of Lao Tzu's teaching. And that is the invitation waiting for you now. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the timeless wisdom of Lao Tzu. If this message spoke to you, consider reflecting on just one Taoist habit you can bring into your life this week, whether it's practicing wu-wei, letting go of comparison, or embracing simplicity. Small shifts create big ripples. And if you'd like to continue exploring more insights on philosophy, wisdom, and the art of living, make sure to subscribe and stay connected with us here at the Oracle Sanctum. Until next time, walk gently, live simply, and trust the flow of life.